Get more perspective on the situation now from one of the only female journalists who's been in Afghanistan.
Yeah, Hollie McKay has been along the front lines in the region for years. She's the author of Only Cry for the Living, Memos from Inside the ISIS Battlefield. Hollie joins us now this morning from neighboring Uzbekistan. Hollie, thanks for being here with us again.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, you know, the threat continues to grow in Afghanistan. ISIS-K responsible for yesterday's attacks. And yesterday, U.S. officials told us that they are in constant communication with the Taliban. Did we put too much trust in the Taliban and that they were able to secure the perimeter?
I definitely think, well, ISIS has long been a threat in Afghanistan. I remember one time I was there in 2017 and there were literally ISIS terrorist bombings happening every single day. So it's actually gone down a little bit since then, I would say. They're really difficult to predict, and the US knew something was coming. The UK warned something was coming. Yesterday, my photographer and I interviewed a Taliban leader. He also said that he believed that a malicious attack was very imminent. So everybody knew it was coming, but it was extremely hard to foil. And that's one thing ISIS is able to do very well at sow the discord. I think in these situations, it doesn't serve the Taliban to in any way boost ISIS. And I think that they are very fervently against ISIS. But unfortunately, the chaos of the situation is something that ISIS is very proficient at exploiting.
We're obviously hearing a lot about this ISIS-K group. Hollie, how does this ISIS-K differ from the ISIS we came to learn and know about over the past decade here? And is the Taliban to blame for not preventing this terrorist group from forming?
Well, ISIS-K was emerged in 2015, and it is still, pledged allegiance to the former leader, and it still gets a lot of funding from Syria, Iraq, from the core area. But it broke off on its own and has very different strategic objectives than the Taliban has. ISIS really wants to create this broad international caliphate, whereas the Taliban was more focused on just having the control over Afghanistan itself. And these two groups were very much rivals. I know that there's been a lot that's been conflated where people are saying that they work together, and I never found that to be the case. The groups were very much, when the Taliban wasn't busy fighting Afghan forces and the US, it was busy fighting ISIS. But I think it's a relatively small group. I think there's less than 1,000 fighters, but still just extremely well trained, extremely prolific, gets great funding for oil revenues and from Iraq and Syria. So it definitely knows how to stand on its own. And as I said earlier, I don't know that the Taliban, I think it's going to be a big problem for the Taliban. I think that ISIS' objective will be to show that the Taliban is incapable of providing security for the Afghan people, which is quite an ironic twist of fate, given that that was also the Taliban's objective in fighting the government, was to instigate a lot of these attacks in a very similar manner, also to show that the government was incapable of taking care of the Afghan people. So unfortunately, what I see here is not an end to a war, but really the beginning of a very frightening new chapter, which the Afghan people, again, are caught in a crossfire. And that could ultimately spill into the United States because, as I said, ISIS has very broad strategic objectives.
Hollie, maybe you can give us insight into this. President Biden has set the deadline of August 31st. Still, despite what happened, why is this date, the 31st, a must? Can we push it back?
I think, the U.S. has the power to do a lot. Of course, it can push it back if it wanted to. But my suspicion is that in these talks with the Taliban, that they've said that this is the hard out. Of course, the Taliban have warned of quote-unquote consequences. However, I do think that this is the time where the United States needs to use its power and use its might and say, we're not ready yet. I don't know that the Taliban is going to really have that much leverage to do anything that would harm a United States military or people in the U.S., because at the same time, the Taliban leaders are saying that they want to have good or cordial relations with the United States. And certainly if they tried anything like that after the 31st, that would destroy any chance of that. So I think the U.S. at this point needs to show its might. And if we need to stay beyond August 31st to get Americans out, then we need to stay. And I think there's sort of the sticking to the August 31st right now. I hope that the president gives it a little bit more thought as the day approaches.
Yeah, we encourage our viewers to follow you. Hollie McKay, your social media pages. You've also been talking about what people can do to help the people in Afghanistan. So we appreciate your reporting. We will be sure to check back in with you in the near future.
Thanks
again, Hollie. Stay